according to his purpose. Our address, physical services, 106 Ninth Q in Johannesburg. My number is +27 82 456 9264. You shall surely be blessed. May God bless you, and I look forward to receiving you. Amen. Good evening, everyone. You're welcome tonight. This is Abe Adenigba. I welcome you to this brand new month of October. Right now, we're in the last quarter of the year, but it's not over. And I believe this last quarter, you can achieve so much. You can accomplish so much. So I want you to look forward to this last quarter as a quarter for you to see some of your dreams coming through, some of your goals for the year coming through. And so I welcome you to the new month of October. My name is Abe, if you are hearing me for the first time, and I'm speaking from Shekinah Institute right here in Johannesburg, and I am the director, and I've been taking on some of the subjects that we talk and teach at the Institute. The Institute is for leadership and entrepreneurs to make the world a better place, well governed in every sector, that we shall produce those who shall erode an authentic leadership. And so tonight, I want to continue on the series topic on failure, and saying that failure is not final. And then you know what failure is? Failure is when the outcome of a certain event is negative. Failure can be a defeat. A failure can be a loss of business venture, an idea that did not work out, or some ambition that did not really yield the fruit. And so we are saying today that failure is not final. So this topic is a poignant talk to our minds in this time, and particularly in the last quarter of the year. But it's important to acknowledge what did not work, what did not work out as you have planned it. And it's necessary for you to acknowledge what didn't work out as for you to rework it. And that's what life is all about. That we don't give up in the face of adversity. We don't give up when disappointment comes. We need to look through certain appointment and certain failure and see, and we can get new directions and inspiration. So whatever may be a failure to you, maybe it's that you need to look for a new direction. You may need to seek a new direction. Look for a new path to your dream and the vision that seems not to be working out, or that very thing that happened, or a concept that actually failed. So you may need to look for a new path. And it's never a final attempt when the outcome of your venture is a loss, for example, or your most ambition was met with some form of defeat, obstacles, and oppositions. So that's something about life. And when we attempt things rather than doing nothing, you know, when you attempt nothing, you gain nothing. When you attempt nothing, the world will not reckon with you. But when you achieve, the world reckons with you. But when you also fail, the world have it in their records. Friends have it in their record. You know, your company may have it in their record that something went wrong with you. But I want to tell you that whatever that may have gone wrong, whatever may have failed, is never a failure. It's never a final. It's just an event. Last week, I made a reference to one of the biographies that I studied, and that was Steve Jobs. You know how his executive board asked him to step down from Apple Computers Incorporation, the very company that he founded. And things do happen when, your idea seems to conflict with those that you are working with, or the concept that you introduced did not work. So your colleagues may say, oh, you have actually failed in this your strategy or this concept that did not work. But what we find out about Steve Jobs, when he was asked to step down or step out of Apple, he became more innovative. He became more innovative, especially with personal computers. And so we saw him that he became successful at his other innovations in the personal computers industry. So what I'm saying today is that your determination with a purpose must transcend the event of failure, must transcend that experience of defeat that you may have suffered. So as you move to the last quarter of this year, you need to revisit certain things that did not work out for you. Perhaps you may see gain, that speed, that grace for you to reorganize and find a new path to success this time of the year. Let me highlight another personality in the political leadership history. This is an individual that is well quoted in every book of inspiration, and this person is Abraham Lincoln, an American president in the mid 1800s, precisely between 1860 to 1865. Now, what I studied about this man is that I could see his history has to do with so much of adversity, defeat, failure, and of course accomplishment. And that was a very serious time in the history of America. And for you to emerge a leader in the time of crisis in any nation, and you emerge successfully, look, your name will remain in history. And so it is that in this difficult world that we are, in this tough economy, we've just come out of COVID just after 3 years. The effect and the impact of COVID is still all around. Many businesses has not come back. But I want you to know that if you are still hanging on to those businesses and you are trying to revive them, you may emerge somebody of history despite the crisis of the world during the pandemic. Now, I just want to talk about Abraham Lincoln because I really fancy the story and the strength of the man Abraham Lincoln, who lived in the 19th century. Now, he contested legislature twice. He won one. This man ran for Senate seat in America, but lost two, respectively. He also lost the bid for the vice president nomination. He lost the bid. However, he did not relent. If your vision is compelling, you don't give up. If your vision is compelling, you are into that vision, it's what you believe in, you don't give up. So by 1860, Abraham Lincoln contested for the presidential election of the United States of America, and he won. And at that time was the time of the slavery, abolition of slave trade. There were so many groups, so many interests who are pro-slave trade and anti-slave trade. And he belonged to that, anti-slave trade, and that sort of affected his ambition, but he did not give up the vision to lead the country in such a time. So I'm using this to teach us that, when we have determination, when we have ambition, we don't give up in the face of crisis, in the face of opposition. We don't give up. When we suffer defeat because of what we believe in, we don't give up. And at the end of the day, we bounce back. So Abraham Lincoln, he never stopped until he wins where he had failed or he was defeated. As mentioned to you, he contested the legislature. He won. He lost the re-election. He also ran for the Senate seat, which he lost twice. Congress, he lost one. He won one. He was a man that never gave up. And I believe that we can learn from his strength, that we don't give up in the face of failure. That failure is an event. A defeat is a process that did not favor you. That's what I describe defeat as. A defeat is that process. A defeat is that process, is that election that did not favor you at a point in time. So failure and defeat sort of, gel together. But I'm saying today that they are never final in the history of a man. So we study the history of Abraham Lincoln. We saw that a failure did not stop him. Defeat did not stop him. In fact, he had personal family tragedy that did not stop him. In fact, he gained so much strength from those events of tragedy and adversity in the family. So if you attempt nothing, you mean nothing to your world. But if you hold on to the future that you saw, that purpose that you believed in, this become your source of inspiration to move forward. It becomes your source of inspiration, to get over the failure or the defeat. And I want to tell you, both failure and defeat, the world always acknowledge it. They talk about it. They write about it. Because in politics, negative stories like defeat and losses spreads as well as the victory. We're learning from this because people with such ambition, and when their vision is so superior, they see that they will never give up because they are selfless in their pursuit. And so it becomes a source of inspiration. And I saw that in the story of Abraham Lincoln. The reason why Abraham Lincoln was an ubiquitous story in most inspirational storybooks. His name was synonymous to defeat, failure, and adversity. I don't know what may have been, the story about yourself, or what may have, sort of affected your story or your career trajectory, maybe certain things that you may have done wrong and all that. But I want to say to you that, you must find a new direction. You must find a new source of inspiration. And whatever could be, your inspiration is highly driven from inside. And that is what I want to share with you. So looking at the life of Abraham Lincoln, this man, despite all the story of defeat and failure in his life, Abraham had uncommon tenacity to overcome failure. He had uncommon tenacity to overcome defeat that are obstacles to his vision and purpose. So one of the factors that are identified in reading the story of Lincoln is that Abraham Lincoln is so resilient. He has so much of resilience that we can envy. To fall or stumble and rise again is certainly the strength of being resilient in the event of failure. To fall or stumble is part of the story, but to rise again is a strength that we call resilience. And that is what I find in the story of Abraham Lincoln. And that tends to tell us that, failure is not final if you learn to develop resilience in the face of defeat, in the face of failure. And resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficulties, ability to bounce back from defeat, ability to recover from any form of adversity. That is what resilience is. And we can see that in the story of Abraham Lincoln, who at the end of the day, he became the United States president in the year 1860 to 1865. Yes, by 1865, he was assassinated, but he fulfilled his vision and he made an impact in the history of America. So, like I said earlier, for you to emerge as a leader in the time of crisis, your name will become relevant Your name will become a reference point. In fact, the resilience of Abraham Lincoln is a reference point for me tonight to see a man who contested up to 8 times in a political election or nomination, and he failed. But at the end of the day, at about his eighth or the ninth time, he won the election to the highest office. It can only be by resilience. Now, let's look at other aspect of Abraham Lincoln's history. Perhaps it's as a result of his background that also made him to be so much resilient in his later life. Now, this man, he had a tough time growing up, according to history. His mother died at the age of 9, and then his father, Thomas Lincoln, gave up his farm in Kentucky, America, due to slavery. Certainly, he was also anti-slavery business. So he had to, voluntarily give up his home and land. In fact, some history said that they were removed from their homes. Obviously, it was involuntary. And you can see the young Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, experiencing such childhood, trauma. It tends to inform us that, whatever people suffer and they get over it, they were building up such of a resilience capacity. And I believe this helped Abraham Lincoln at his later year, that every failure or adversity of his family was not final to him. He continued to live his life. So we saw his childhood was very traumatic, but he was resilient. He went through certain difficulties which may have contributed to his accomplishment in his later life. But I'm saying today that your failure, your mistakes, they are not final stop to where you're going. You need to look through the failure. You need to look through a new direction onto other opportunities. So with your lens of determination, failure directs your attention to opportunities that lies ahead. So don't be pushed back because of the predicament that you may have seen in this year, or some of the things that you may have done that did not work out. It may be asking for you to consider other ways by which they can be done. We can see people that they brought in some ideas by the beginning of this year, but the idea did not work. They lost money. They lost some investment. But there's always a way for you to, rebound. And that's why you need to, acquire the capacity of being resilient, and you will always bounce back. You will always look, because, when things did not work, when things fail, there's always other tracks of opportunities, and that's what a failure makes you to see. That's why failure is not final, it's not finite. It takes resilience for you to find new tracks of opportunities. And that is what you need to consider as you get into the last quarter of this year. Whatever it is, don't feel failure when certain things are not coming out the way you planned it. And that is what can take you to a new level of accomplishment before this year runs out. And that's why we're saying that it's never a final for an event like failure to happen in your organization, in your ministry, or in your relationship, even that things went the way you did not plan for. So it's never a final. So I'm saying tonight that failure is not final, because certain failure may have been due to, like what we say, when you use the square peg into a round hole, it may not fit. Certain things may not fit, and that's why it did not work, and that's why it failed, because you cannot put a square peg into a round hole. So that may be the reason why it did not work. So all you need to do is that you need to learn what fits the right thing, and then you will see success. Certainly something, that you may not have considered, some factors before establishing certain business, before joining somebody in partnership, before going into alliance with certain people or certain things, and you find out that the outcome is disastrous. You need to take up the lessons. You need to take up the lessons and find the right thing that fits where your dream takes you. For example, you have got to find the right hole. You have got to the hole. The right hole is the right place. The right hole is the right people who can articulate your ideas. Those who can cultivate in what you believe. When I was reading Abraham Lincoln, he said something in one of his statements that he made. He says, before you choose somebody, or before you take somebody to join what you're doing or appoint someone, it must be somebody who shares the same opinion as you, as your organization. You can't go into alliance with people, with organization that does not resonate with what you believe. And so it is that many things can cause failure, because sometimes people associate failure with the man at the front, but they do not consider other factors that surrounds the man or other alliance that he finds himself. So sometimes failure is not unilateral. It's not unilateral. And that's what you need to know. So you need to move on with the lessons that you have learned. You need to drop the square peg that is not fitting the round hole. You need to drop certain square peg, because certain individuals, they are square peg that will not fit the right hole that you have, the right vision that you have. Some do not fit into the vision. They do not fit into the purpose for which you are pursuing. They are just like a square peg. So you need to find people with a like mind. And that's the lesson that you take from failure events or things that became a disastrous. So as I'm about to just finish on this aspect, I want you to go tonight that failure is never final. You need to be resilient. And when you are resilient, you are able to recover quickly and to pursue the other opportunities that lies ahead of you. So we have seen tonight that failure is not final. We have looked at the life of Abraham Lincoln, a man in the political arena of America in the 19th century, who contested many political offices, and he found himself defeated. He failed, even in business he failed. But then he never gave up. And what I find out is that he was a resilient man. He was a resilient man. And you need resilience to survive this last quarter. You need resilience. You need to revisit what failed. You need to revisit the idea that did not work. And then you need to find new ideas. You need to reflect, because through reflections and mindfulness, you are able to gain new strength of ideas. You are able to, look at some other direction that is not where you're going, and then it points you to a new direction. And so failure is not final. And I want to just say tonight, I want to wish you well, and never give up. Never give up in the face of adversity. Never give up. Be resilient, and you will discover a new track of opportunities that waits for you. And this is as much I want to talk to you about tonight. That in this last quarter, you have to be resilient and be hopeful. You have to be hopeful. And then when you are hopeful and with faith, you can really see what is not yet appearing to your physical eyes. Your vision, your dreams can become, a reality. and it shall be a testimony. And so I will want to leave it there tonight, and we continue again next week, God willing, and I look forward to see you. So thank you so much for listening and giving me your time tonight. My name is Abi Adeniba. I have been talking about failure is not final. It's just an event. And it's just an event that is asking you for a new direction, a new path, and for you to take some lessons with you, and you can become a better person. Thank you, and God bless.
He has died for you to remove condemnation from your life.